What's up guys, welcome back to MOV Plus. Hope you're all keeping well out there. Our workout today has 3 components to it, so we're going to be hitting up the warm-up first, getting the body mobilized and warm. Then we're going to go into the build workout, which is going to be 2 5-minute EMOMs working on a bunch of shoulder-specific stuff. And then we're going to look at moving into the move section, which is going to be a time-formatted one, so 4 3-minute sections. It's a couplet of some alternating dumbbell up-downs and alternating dumbbell snatch. Once we're done with those 3 components, we'll cool down and stretch. But as for now, we'll get into the warm-up. So we're going to kick things off with 1 minute of cardio of your choice. We're going to go with a very, very light plate grounder overhead, which is going to look like that. We do that for the first 60 seconds. From there, the next 2 minutes, we're going to go 30 seconds of skipping. So jumping into that motion, into 30 seconds of up-downs. Okay, so we do that for 2 minutes. Then the next 2 minutes, what we'll do is 30 seconds of skips again into 30 seconds of burpees. So extending on that up-down movement. Okay, Em, you good to go?
Yep.
All right, starting in 10. So 1 minute of cardio of choice, guys. You can do the same as what we're doing, or you can mix it up, do whatever you want at home. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So when you're picking the cardio movement, guys, we want to keep it pretty sort of low key as far as technique goes. Should be pretty straightforward, something you can roll straight into, even if you've been sitting at the computer or driving all day or not doing much. We want to be able to just kind of ease into things with something that's not going to take too much brain power. We also want to keep it fairly light as well, so don't go doing any sort of heavy deadlifts or heavy, whatever it is. We want to keep it on the lighter side, give the body time to just kind of warm up, get the joints moving before we hit the hard stuff. So if you're doing this same plate ground overhead, guys, we're keeping a nice straight back. That's the priority 1. We want to make sure we're not rounding over. You can see that Em's knees are going to kind of push out as she goes into that deadlift position down the bottom there. And then head just slightly pops through at the lockout. So she's hitting a really nice overhead position. So in about 10 seconds, we're going to move into that second part, which is 30 seconds on skips, 30 seconds on up downs for 2 minutes. And go for it. So grabbing our skipping rope, 30 seconds on. So nice narrow stance, feet should be right in together on the balls of the feet, elbows tucked in nice and tight, and just trying to get into that nice rhythm early. This is going to be just a nice warm up for the calves, legs, a little bit of getting your brain switched on as well, sort of coordinating that timing. Three, 2, 1, and going to up downs. So this one's nice and straightforward, guys. It's from a nice upright position to a push-up position at the bottom there. So looking for 2 straight body positions at either end. And nice active shoulders, so we're not dropping through to that push-up just yet. That'll be kind of in the last section. We'll do that with the burpee. This one we want to have stiff elbows holding ourselves up in that push-up position. 1 more should do it. Good, so going back to the skipping again. And go for it. Always want to check in what your arms are doing when you're skipping, guys. If you find that they're doing a lot, so like wheeling over or giant big sort of bicep curl motions, try and rein it in. Try and just work through the flick through the wrist. Keep it minimal, and it should just be a nice little efficient rebound off the balls of the feet. Three, 2, 1, back to those up downs. So if you find this hard to get this nice kind of high hip position that Em's hitting, she's really jackknifing the hips there, split the feet wider if you need to. If you've got real tight hamstrings, it will allow a little bit more ease of that position. Go 10 more seconds on this one, and then we'll move to that final section, which is going to be the same layout, but burpees instead of up downs. 3, 2, 1, and back to the skips again. So if you are feeling good by this stage of the warm-up, guys, you're feeling that heart rate get up, body's feeling good, you start to crank the speed up a little bit. Three, 2, 1, and down to burpees. So this is going to be similar to the up down, guys. It's going to be a little bit bigger though, so we're going to come all the way down flat to ground at the bottom. So we'll see that pressing motion now. And then at the top, we're going to get a little bit of a jump and a hand contact above or behind the head. It's a nice open hip position. So we're still looking for the kind of tall, upright position at the end. Doesn't have to be a strict push-up, but we do want to see a full layout at the ground. And back to the rope. All right, last minute to the warm-up. Ten more seconds on the skipping. 3, 2, 1, and last 30 seconds, so back on those burpees again. See, she's using that nice kind of roll down method, takes a lot of the weight out of the arms, so it's a little bit more easy to repeat these reps without the fatigue building up. And done. All right, that is the warm-up done, guys. Have a little recovery time. We're gonna check out build next. Okay, guys, we're gonna have a look at the build workout now. So this one has 2 pieces to it. Both of them are gonna be focused around the shoulders. So the first block is 5 minutes where we're gonna be doing a single arm dumbbell upright row. So that is looking like this. We will do 20 seconds on one side, 20 seconds on the other, followed by a 20-second rest. And that will occur each minute on the minute for 5 minutes. You then get a 1-minute break and we move into the second section, which is going to be the same format, except the movement now is going to be a push press. So that will be from there, dipping and driving up to overhead. Again, 20 seconds on one side, 20 seconds on the other, 20 seconds rest for 5 minutes. Good to go, Em?
Yep.
All right, starting in 10. Going in 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So important to note with these movements, guys, that the first one is a very strict, controlled, sort of even tempo kind of a movement, whereas the second one, that push press, is going to be much more momentum-based, explosive, that sort of thing. So with this one, we want to keep the body still and switching sides. And what we're going to see is the dumbbell go from sort of in front of the upper thigh there, yep, and then pulling up to about collarbone heights. And there'll be no movement from the body. So she's not hinging, she's not getting any momentum behind it. And resting. So we have our 20-second rest now, and this will be the format for each of the minutes for the next 4. So we've obviously done the first minute there, the next 4 to make it 5 minutes in total. Three, 2, 1, and go for it. So what we want to see is when you go to start this movement, we have the shoulder kind of set back. So you're thinking about that shoulder blade kind of just tucking in a little bit, get nice and active. Elbow is going to stay above the height of the dumbbell at all times. So if you find yourself kind of getting into a weird kind of a curl motion with the elbow down, lift that elbow up nice and high, and switching sides. But again, make sure the body stays still. Don't be tempted into doing more like a hang high pull sort of thing. This is just going to be a strict one, making the shoulder do all the work. Obviously, there'll be a bit of bicep there as well. And resting. Okay, so that's 2 down. We've got 3 to go. Three, 2, 1, and go for it. So this movement's going to be really good for just developing kind of raw strength in the shoulders. So things like our cleans, dumbbell snatches, or any kind of snatch for that matter, this is really going to benefit that, building up into that strength into the traps as well. So get a nice strong upper back, and switching sides. Making sure we get that nice full extension at the bottom there like Em's doing. Don't want to be sort of short-cutting that. Stretch down and resting. Always important to go full range of motion on every movement that we do. Ready, and go for it. This is round 4. Now what you'll find is there's kind of an added level of difficulty with this being a single-sided movement, because now we have to brace through our midsection. When we have a weight on one side of the body, there's always a tendency that the body's going to want to lurch to that side, so you've got to stay strong through the abs, through the back, through the glutes, and switching. Making sure that we keep everything nice and level. So imagine kind of a line through the shoulders and a line through the pelvis there, make sure those stay level and we're not kind of twisting or turning those lines to get out of shape. And resting. Okay, we've got one more round on this one. Remember, we have a 1-minute break coming up after this round. Three, 2, 1, and go for it. So remember guys, if you are working with a lighter dumbbell at home, that's the only option you've got. Slow things down. It's 20 seconds on each arm either way. So as Em's showing here, you can make it more difficult, especially on the way down by riding it down, switch sides, in a really controlled fashion, making the muscles work that little bit harder. Anytime we add kind of speed or momentum to it, makes it a little bit easier to get through. It'll probably jack the heart rate up a bit, but it's going to make it easier on the muscle because it obviously doesn't have to work quite as hard. This slower speed takes a lot more control there. And resting. All right, so we have 20 seconds left in the minute to rest, then we have a full minute's rest. We can recover, and then we're going to move into the push press for the following 5 minutes. So whilst you're resting, guys, get some water in, have a bit of a move around, try and shake those shoulders out, do some stretching if you feel like you need to. Otherwise, just recover, and then we'll look at that push press in a moment. So 1 minute from now, and then we'll kick off that second part. Okay, 20 seconds till we kick off this next section. We'll be going from the 6-minute marker through to the 11 on that running clock, and we're going to be working with that single arm push press, same format, 20 seconds on one side, 20 on the other, 20 rest for 5 rounds. All right, 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So with this one, guys, the immediate notable difference with this is there's a lot of momentum and explosiveness to this. Whereas before we were going kind of slow and strict, this is now generating a lot of force from the legs, driving up hard through that shrug, and then carrying it through with the press, and switching. So it's all about sequencing, yeah? You want to let the hips and the legs start the movement, create all that momentum. The shrug is going to kind of start to pop that dumbbell up, and then the arm will literally just kind of finish the movement off. And to get it sequenced really well, it should flow nicely and feel quite smooth. And resting. Three, 2, 1, and go for it. So looking at the setup here, guys, we'll have a look at the lower body first. So narrow stance, you want to have the feet straight under the hips to get that nice power drive down through the legs. Knees are going to be slightly forward and slightly outward when we do that dip drive. Okay, and what we want to make sure of is that when we come down, the heels stay on the ground. At the top is when they'll peak up off the ground. Switching sides. Now what she's doing, she's keeping her hips over the top of her ankles, right? She's not letting her butt go back behind them like a hinge pattern. She's actually staying stacked, and that's going to connect into the torso as well. Shoulders are going to stay on top of the hips, on top of the heels. And resting, and that way we can create a really nice, powerful up drive. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and go for it. Now, if we look at the upper body portion of this, guys, she's got her arm wound into a nice neutral position. So it's basically staying in line with the shoulder, elbows tucked in under the dumbbell, okay? Dumbbell's pointing forwards, backwards, rather than being out and going side to side. And switching. Okay, and that way we're just in a nice sort of snug, tucked in position at the shoulder. It doesn't feel like it's in a vulnerable, reached out position. It should feel safe and strong. And then the lockout, we're going to see that head just slightly poke forward, sort of lining up the ear with the bicep at the top. And that dumbbell still stays in that forwards, backwards position. And resting. Okay. So 2 rounds left. Three, 2, 1, and go for it. Now, if you notice, Em's other arm is up and out, right? What she's not doing is just letting it go loose and lazy by its side. She's actually getting activity happening through the entire body. Doesn't matter what movement we're doing, we want to get everything working together as a team, as much tension locked in as we can. And switching. That way it's just easier to create force on that weighted object, whether it be a kettlebell or a backpack or a dumbbell or a barbell. And resting. So last round coming up. Three, 2, 1, and go for it. So last round, guys, the last thing we'll look at here is how Em's keeping her body nice and level, right? We talked about with the upright row that obviously we're loaded to one side, so we're gonna have to kind of fight against that imbalance. It's the same deal here, so looking at sort of knees, hips, shoulders, everything's nice and stable at a level, switching sides. And that's gonna be coming from just staying strong through that midsection, making sure she's not kind of dumping into that side that the dumbbell's on, and not overreaching either on the side that's pressing up. And time. All right, that is the build workout done, guys. Well done. Have a bit of a chill. We're gonna have a look at move next. Alrighty, guys, we're gonna check out the move workout now. So how this one is gonna run is every 3 minutes for 4 rounds. We're gonna go through the following. So we have 12 alternating dumbbell up downs, which is gonna look like this. There we go. So changing sides each time. So you can either do that at top or bottom, whatever's comfortable for you. From there, we move into 12 alternating dumbbell hang snatch, which is going to look like that. Again, changing hands right to left as we go along. So obviously with that in a 3-minute window, we can hopefully get it done in, say, 90 seconds, 2 minutes thereabouts. So you've got a little bit of recovery time between rounds. And as I said, we're going to do 4 cycles of that. Good to go?
Yep.
All right. Okay, going in 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So with this, guys, we're gonna have to factor in straight out of the gates that we've got an unleveled hand position. Obviously, we've got one hand on the dumbbell, one on the ground. So you need to do a little bit of kind of movement at the shoulder blades to try and level the torso out. We wanna make sure both arms are still locked out, or at least fairly well locked out. And then from there, going from that nice tall stand up to that push-up position at the bottom. We're doing 12 reps on this. So making sure that when you do jump the feet out, we're hitting a really nice sort of like, I should be able to draw a line through your body, right? If your hips are still kind of jackknifed up or they're collapsing through, we've got to try and fix that and get those abs nice and tight. Okay, so 12 of those, then move to that hang snatch. So open stance, we're looking at sort of shoulder width, maybe even slightly wider, just wide enough to be able to get the dumbbell between the legs there. We're going to keep knee height or thereabouts, probably just slightly above it. And then we're doing that nice rapid hip extension into the shrug, flowing through into that lockout to the overhead there. So it's not a press motion, but you might have a little bit just at the last moment, kind of pushing that last little bit out, especially if you're doing a muscle snatch style. Okay, and again, we're going for 12 of these. Okay, so that was about 1:13 there, so we've got the rest of the time up to the 3-minute marker to rest. So as per usual, guys, stretch a little bit, get some water in, shake the shoulders out, have a think about your technique. Was there anything there you could review and fine tune, that sort of stuff? It's always good to be trying to get a little bit more efficient each time. Okay, so 1 more minute till we hit this next round. Okay, 30 seconds. So start getting ourselves ready to go. Remember, it's 12 alternating dumbbell up downs, 12 alternating dumbbell hang snatch. Ten seconds. Going in 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So round 2 now, guys, moving through the 12 alternating dumbbell up down. One of the things we immediately have to kind of think about as far as the loading of this, now when we come up out of that up down, we've got to make sure we engage the back. If this were just a regular up down, it wouldn't matter as much. But now that we're going to be pulling a weight off the ground, even if it's a light one, we still want to make sure that we do what Em's doing there, and that's just kind of getting the back into a nice straight position versus having maybe the hips a little higher and the back maybe slightly curved off. We're bracing the same way we would if we were lifting, say, a heavy pair of kettlebells or a heavy barbell off the ground or any kind of heavy object. Make sure that we brace through that midsection and through that back. As you move into the hang snatch here, guys, knowing that it's from a hang position, right? It's a shorter run up. So it means we have to be more efficient in how much extension we get, how much shrug we get, and then also how quick we are to kind of pop in underneath it and get that turnover into that lockout position. When we can go from the ground, obviously there's a lot more run up there. We can build up a lot more speed. So this kind of forces our hand into doing what we do, but better. We have to be faster at it, more efficient, because we have that really short run up. Okay, so similar kind of time frame there. That's good, nice consistent time. We have 2 more rounds of this. So again, nice rest and through into the 6-minute marker. Okay, 60 more seconds. Okay, 30 seconds until we hit round 3. Ten seconds. 3, 2, 1, and go for it. So round 3 now, guys, moving through these 12 alternating up downs with the dumbbell. If we think about where the hands and the feet are going to get placed on the ground, hands are going to be probably just around shoulder width or just outside of that, so the feet can kind of fit fairly close inside the dumbbell. When we do a normal up down, obviously we don't have to get as close in because it's a bit easy to kind of rock back onto the heels, but with the added element of the weight, we want to get sort of as close to that dumbbell as we can. That way we're not feeling like we're pulling from too far in front. And the feet jumping at the back, they're going to narrow up fairly close. That's when we're going to hit that nice hard sort of stop at the back there. We hit the brakes. And you'll notice that Em's feet, as she moves through these hang snatches, she's going to kind of pop up onto the toes a little bit, and that's what we call triple extension. So ankles, knees, hips are all going to open right up as she gets that big, big hip extension up to the overhead. As long as she ends up back on the heels, that's cool. She also wants to be on the heels as she hits the hang part of it. So where she's creating all the drive and all the force through the ground, we want that traveling through the midfoot, which means the heel has to stay down. We can't be kind of balancing on the toes there. Okay, so we'll rest through to the 9-minute marker now, and then we'll hit the 4th and final round. Okay, 1 more minute. All right, 30 seconds till we kick off this last one, guys. All right, 3, 2, 1, and go for it. Now, something to be aware of, guys, if you are working at home with a kettlebell and doing this movement, you might find that the height of the kettlebell might be a little bit too high to work with, or it might be a little bit unstable. So some things you can do is either work with the kettlebell, but just take your time through that bottom section, take on that instability as a challenge, make sure you do it safely, or when you get to the bottom, you can take your hand onto the ground and then put it back on the handle of the kettlebell as you come up out of it. Obviously with the dumbbell, especially with the hex dumbbell like this, it's got that flat side, it's a little bit more stable. All right, moving to the hang snatch. So notice at the top, that finish position, especially when she kind of sort of lands it, she hits the lockout there just before she stands up to finish. She's getting that arm just back kind of behind the level of her face there. So it's kind of drifting out of view for her for a moment. So if you're doing this and you can see it as you hit the lockout there, it means it's either too far forward or you're leaning your head back too far. So you want to have this moment where it actually just disappears for a moment, it's locked out, and you stand it up. And that way we'll get into that really nice shoulder position. All right, so that's the 4th and final one, guys. We've still got a little bit of time left on the clock, so if you're still going, that's cool. Keep working your way through it. Once we hit the 12, we will wrap it there, and then we'll move into some cool down work. Okay, 1 more minute. So hopefully you're getting towards the tail end of those hang snatches. Final 30 seconds. And that's time. All right, guys, that is the MOVE workout done. Take a little bit of recovery time, get some water in, and then we're gonna go through some stretches to finish off. Alrighty guys, we're gonna finish things off with a little bit of mobility work now. So just cooling the shoulders down. The first drill we're gonna do is what we call a pass through. So Em's gonna do a skipping rope for this one, but if you happen to own a band or anything like that, or a broomstick or a mop stick, anything like that works well. Basically what we're gonna do for the next minute is lock the arms out nice and wide and just roll the shoulders right over the top. Now, depending on how flexible you are and how pumped your shoulders and chest are from the workout, you might need to go wider and wider and wider till you can do this. You might find that you can only get to a certain point, and that's okay. Just go to where you feel the stretch through the pecs, up through the shoulders, maybe even get a little bit of bicep as well. Ultimately, what we want to see is the band or the stick or the skipping rope, whatever it is, go from in front of the thighs there to the top of your butt at the back, so we get all the way around. And we want to do that without bending the arms at all. That'll be kind of one of the things you'll notice if you are quite tight, is the body will want to kind of sneak its way through so it doesn't have to push into that stretch. We want to try and deliberately make it go through that. So we're going to encourage it but not force it as we go through that. Okay, so that's drill number one. Drill number two we're gonna do is a tabletop. So with this one, we're gonna have a seat on the ground and we're gonna set up like we're gonna do a crab walk. So feet out in front, hands behind us. And what we'll do again for the next minute is we're gonna bridge the hips up nice and high, hold there for maybe 5 or 10 seconds and then sink it back down again. So what we're really doing here is looking at pushing through the hips. So you're gonna squeeze your butt, trying to open up through those hip flexors. We're gonna see a big stretch on the shoulders and the biceps and the chest there as well. You can also play around with, like, once you're at the top here, just lightly kind of edging forward a little bit. You won't get much range, but you can kind of encourage it forward, rock back and then back down again, and just move on, opening up through everything we use for all our pressing work. So Em has her fingers pointing forwards. You might be more comfortable outwards or backwards or whatever feels right for you. You play around with it. You might find you get a bit of a different stretch by going different ways. But that is our tabletop drill. Okay, so those are the two drills, guys. What I'll get you to do, try and run through 3 or 4 rounds of that, a minute a piece, get the body nice and loose. Otherwise, we'll catch you next time. And that's been your MOVE Plus workout.